If you've been scrolling through endless lists of UPS units, comparing wattage, size, and price, and you're still not sure which one actually makes sense for your office or home lab, this review is going to clear that up. I've spent the last couple of weeks looking at the specs, reading the limited buyer feedback that exists, and even chatting with a few small business owners who rely on an uninterrupted power supply to keep their servers humming. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The biggest worry most people have is ending up with a unit that's either too small to protect the gear they need or so oversized that they're paying for capacity they'll never use. That's the sweet spot we're trying to hit with the APC Smart-UPS 1500 LCD-RM2U 100V, model SMT1500RMJ2U. First things first, who should actually consider this machine? If you run a modest network rack, think a couple of servers, a handful of NAS drives, maybe a PO switch for a few IP cameras. This 1500V UPS gives you enough headroom to protect everything without having to stack multiple small units. It's also a solid choice for a home studio setup where you have a desktop, a monitor, an audio interface, and a small graphics card. The key point is the 1500VA rating translates to roughly 900 watts of usable power, so you need to stay under that envelope if you want the UPS to hold your load for any meaningful amount of time during an outage. Anything beyond that, like a high-end workstation with multiple GPUs, will be pushing the limits and might leave you with just a few seconds of backup. On the flip side, if your environment is purely low power, say a single desktop or a simple home router, you probably don't need a 2U unit with an LCD display. A smaller, wall-mounted UPS would save you both space and a few dollars. Likewise, large enterprises with multi-kilowatt loads should be looking at higher capacity rack units or even modular UPS systems that can scale. The Smart-UPS 1500 sits right in the sweet spot for small to medium rack deployments. Now, let's talk about the practical strengths that actually matter when the power flickers. The first thing you'll notice is the LCD panel. It's not a flashy color screen, it's a straightforward, high-contrast display that tells you real-time load, battery runtime, and input voltage. In a noisy data center, that quick glance can save you a lot of troubleshooting time. No need to pull up a web interface or dig through a menu on a desktop computer. The unit also has a built-in network management card, which means you can monitor it remotely via SNMP or the APC PowerShoot software. For anyone who prefers to keep the rack door closed and still wants visibility into the UPS health, that remote capability is a genuine time saver. Another real-world perk is the configuration of outlets. The 1500 LCD-RM ships with a mix of battery-backed and surgeonly receptacles. The battery-backed outlets are grouped together, making it easy to plug in the most critical devices like your server's power supply and network switches, while the surgeonly outlets can handle peripherals that don't need backup, such as a monitor or a printer. That separation prevents you from unintentionally draining the battery on a non-essential piece of equipment, which is a mistake some first-time UPS buyers make. When it comes to runtime, the unit offers about 10 minutes of backup at a 50% load, according to APC's own figures. In a typical office scenario, that gives you enough time to either ride out a brief brownout or to gracefully shut down your systems. It's not a marathon, but for the kind of workloads this UPS targets, 10 minutes is a realistic safety net. The battery is also user replaceable, so you can extend the life of the unit without having to buy a completely new UPS when the cells age out. That design choice keeps long-term ownership costs down, especially if you're comfortable swapping the batteries yourself. There are a couple of hidden trade-offs you should be aware of before you click Add to Cart. First, the unit requires a 100V input, which is standard for most US data centers but might be a snag if you're powering this from a dedicated 120V circuit with a heavy load. In practice, the UPS will function fine, but you'll need to ensure that the input circuit isn't already near its capacity limit, or you might trigger a breaker before the UPS even has a chance to kick in. Second, the LCD panel, while informative, does add a small amount of heat inside the rack. In a tightly packed rack with limited airflow, you'll want to verify that the unit isn't contributing to a hot spot that could affect neighboring equipment. A quick temperature check after a few days of operation can confirm that the ambient remains within safe limits. From a value for money perspective, the Smart-UPS 1500 sits at a price point that many small businesses find acceptable, especially when you factor in the built-in network management and the reliable APC reputation. The 4.5-star rating from 47 reviewers.